Alright, what's up guys, it's Zero here, and today I have for you a very late deck profile as I did not finish this deck until this month. All the way back from set 20, so it's Global's next set is Bermuda Triangle, so this is the Legion Duo deck. In my opinion, the best deck in the game right now, so the best deck in the format, ending off with Legion format. This deck is just I wouldn't say oppressive, this deck is just very good at not dying and does what it does for really cheap. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get to the deck list. So excuse me if I do not remember the names of some of these cards. I guess I just pull up the database off the side of my own so I can actually know their names. So first off, the starter we are playing is the Duo Lover Singer Darling. So her skill is a Forerunner and Rearguard Circle, put her into Soul, so no other cost, just put her into Soul. To return one of your Duo Rearguards to your hand, or alternatively, if you have two of the cards of the same name, you can bounce both of them. So, for example, let's just say you have, if you just have, let's say, like one copy of the Pepper, you can bounce her, or if you have two of her, the starter lets you bounce both. So yeah, it's a free. So the starter isn't actually that amazing, but this deck doesn't have that many choices in starters. But what she is for the deck is a free bounce, which is sometimes nice because sometimes you don't want to use your soul to bounce using the Nebula skill, or you just don't have the soul to do it. This lets you do it, and it is a card that goes into your soul, meaning it's +1 soul you can use to pay for cost later. So does what the deck wants it to do, and that's about it. Not amazing, not terrible, but it does its job well enough, and it's better than any other starter you could even remotely think about playing. And next off, grade 1's PG. We're playing the Duo PG, the Aria. Name does matter because this deck lets you primarily bounce. Almost all the cards bounce specifically duos, so the Aria being on name is actually very relevant. There's the white art as well, but I just chose to make my deck entirely black art. I think the arts look nicer, but just know that the art don't make a difference. The cards do the same thing. Next up, we are playing 4 of the Kura. So her skill is on place, Soul Blast 2 to counter charge 2. So this card is fills 2 roles: Soul out. So that mainly early on when you used like a Roan or something else on like turn 2, you can immediately refund that counterblast, and then also lets you drop cards from Soul to drop to Legion, them back in, so you can actually Legion. And later on in the game, it helps you empty Soul and again to help you unflip. But honestly, it's here just as an emergency unflip because this deck is really efficient with its counterblast with what Nebula and Pepper do. To let you loop stuff and let you just have like pretty much infinite counterblast or a lot of counterblast. You just never run out of it. So yeah, it's here for that. Sometimes you do really need the counter. That's why I don't choose to play more of the Soul Blast to draw which we are playing one of. But I do think that counter charge is more valuable than the Soul Blast to draw for this deck. And the other 4 of is a really old card. Let me pull up her name. Her name is what is her name? The Navy Dolphin Amur, but her skill, she's just the Airmo clone, or whatever clone you might want to call these. When they attack that the boosted hits, you can drop a card to draw a card as a filter. Helps you filter triggers out of your hand early in the game to Legion back in, and also helps you just set drop zone up for Legion. Helps you dump like excess cards you don't need in your hand either. But so yeah, just that the other cards you could be playing this slot just aren't very good, and the filter does help you let you fill drop zone up for Legion, so it does have a nice role for that. And the other card that I see some people play is like Peace, the Duo 006K, the one that's a 1 bounce. If your Vanguard's due, you can see one, draw one. If you have 3 or more, you can countercharge one. I think that card's like actually just straight up terrible, and you shouldn't be playing it at all. You don't really want to. This deck already occasionally has over hand size issues where you need to like preemptively call down a bunch of cards down just to knock overhand after doing all your bounce skills and grabbing stuff from your deck. You don't really want to be holding pieces in your hand to get the counter charge off, and you don't even want to have pieces in your hand to begin with. So that's why I don't think Peace is very good for this deck, and I think the filter definitely does a much better job for what it wants to do. And finally, the last grade 1 is the one of Soul Blast 2 draw 1. Her name is, she's definitely a duo. Her name is Urel, the duo pretty horn Urel. Yeah, on play Soul Blast 2 draw a card. Just nice to have as a card that can empty your soul and draw you a card. Just to have, again, all your other grade 1 options kind of suck. So yeah, this is probably the last best filler 1 of slot. Other cards you can play are the on play Soul Charge 1. Just to get extra soul. I don't think it's very good, but you could play it. The Mona, the one that's on place, Counterblast 1 to bounce a card, you can play that too. But I personally found the most useful Soul Blast to draw and just have an extra Soul Blast out sometimes. You do need the Soul Blast made out sometimes, so yeah. That's it for the grade 1s. Grade 2s, so just go reverse order. One of is the Slaney. Her skill is on play, CB1 to bounce off your other rears. She's duo name, but you only play one of her, so that probably won't matter. She's mainly here just to be a filler one of, have an extra way to bounce if you need it. You can do cool plays with like the counter charger where like you have one on the board, you can like call the Slaney, counterblast 1 to bounce the counter charge back to hand and play it back down to empty your soul and to unflip one, so you basically turn Slaney into a counter charge one overall. It's cool things you can do, but it's really just this filler one of. Your other one of kind of don't make a difference. Other cards you can play are like the 12k attacker, Perla could be an option, but I've tried her, I never really got a chance to use her because Perla being a battle phase soldier is kind of awkward because Soul Blast and Bounce being awkward. Sometimes you want those things during your main phase, and she just doesn't do that for you. So that's why I chose to go back to one Slaney. Next off, 4th grade 2 is the Roan. So her skill is she did get buffed from during set 20. She did get buffed for I don't know what reason, but before she only worked on Rearguard Circle. Now she works on Vanguard and Rear. So her skill is onto Vanguard CB1. You can bounce a duo from your board to your hand, and then you add a copy of something from your deck the same name as the card that you bounce. So you bounce PG, you add PG, you bounce like say like the Vepper or the Clancy, these two. You add a copy of those cards in your hand. It procs all your on bounce skills and lets you fetch your extra PGs. Very good card, is your ideal ride. You really want to open one of these every game with your main ride, but and yeah, so this card is just very good. You definitely want to play it at 4. You probably could get away without playing Roans if you're like working on a budget, but I do recommend that Roan is a very good card that you should definitely try to get a playset of if you're playing the deck. And I do think that she is very much like needed if you want to actually play this deck to its maximum potential. Next off is the Clancy. So she's the mate to the Victoria. Her skill is when bounce to hand, Soul Blast 1, Counter Blast 1 to draw a card. She's nice because she lets you empty soul out. She lets you burn counter blast, so you can actually use the counter charger, because that is the biggest issue with the counter charger, is that sometimes your deck is just so free that you have like one face down counter blast and then you heal it up so you have none. Sometimes you just need a way to actually just get a face down counter blast so you can actually use it to empty your soul out. So being counter blast 1 and to soul blast 1 just to draw a card, that's really nice. But the main reason why she's so good, besides the fact that she's the main, is that she has resist. So resist just turns off so many matchups. You know what resist does? Basically, it's hexproof or anti-target or whatever you want to call it from like other games. But yeah, your opponent can't target it. So stuff like just like a Berserk Dragon. That's like target retire, can't get rid of it, so it's going to be targeted. Full board stuff like full board retire, something like Novell, or full board lock, something like Blaster Joker can still lock or retire this card. But this card does shut down a lot of cards that try to kill it and can turn your deck into an even more annoying deck to kill than usual. Like so yeah, very good card, very good card, and it just happens to be a mate to one of your legions that you're playing anyway. So you definitely play forward this card. And lastly, the last grade 2 is the Vepper. So she is the mate to the Nemuel, and her skill is when bounced to hand, you can CB1 to search your deck with a duo. Search your deck for a duo with the same name as something on your board. So, for example, so since you specify board, it counts Vanguard Circle as well. So, for example, if your board is like, let's just say it's like a Clancy, your Vanguard is Nemuel in Legion with a copy of herself. So that means Nemuel in Legion, and let's say like a counter charger on the board. When you bounce her, you have the option to add the Clancy, the counter charger, a Nemuel, or Vepper, because Vepper is on your board as a mate, and that still counts as a card on your board. So that's how that's go work. And then when she's bounced from board to hand, if your hand has 3 or more cards as a card on your Vanguard Circle, you can counter charge 1. So what this means is if let's just say you're on Nemuel and you're in Legion, when you bounce her to hand, you do your search, you add all that good stuff. If your hand has 3 or more total of some combination of Nemuel or Vepper, you get to unflip the 1, so you make this skill free to use, which is very nice. And this is all one skill. If you don't use this first skill, you don't just get the counter charge if you bounce her to hand. So yeah, what normally happens is on your first Legion, what usually happens is that you Legion the Nemuel, and then you bounce a Vepper. You use the Nemuel skill to search 2 more Veppers to your hand. You unflip 2 because Nemuel also has that skill, and then you use the Vepr to search a copy of a Nemuel, so another copy of the grade 3, to re-loop your legions every turn. So that's usually how the loop goes, but obviously this card's very versatile, so you can grab other things as well. Other things being like Quancy, Roans, Victorias if you want Legion without for a reason, PG, stuff like that. So very, very versatile card and very, very good. So yeah, very, very good card. All your grade 2s have a role in the deck, and they're all very needed at 4 in my opinion. And finally, the grade 3, we'll go over the most important card first, the main boss of the deck, the Nemuel. So she leads in the Vepr. Her skill is, once per turn, when a rear is bounced to your hand, if you are in Legion state, you can CB2 to search your deck for 2 cards with the same name as the card bounced. She gets a crit, and if you have 3 or more cards in your hand the same name as something on your Vanguard circle, you countercharge 2. So since this skill is always can only be used while you're in Legion, you search whatever, you get a crit, and then if your hand has 3 or more of some combination of Vepr or Nemuel, you get to unflip 2. So you make this skill free essentially. So yeah, very good. Obviously, the most common play you see or you hear people say is you do this, you just grab 2 PGs to hand. But other cards you could again, like I said before, a lot of times you do just dupe the Vepr, so you can grab an extra copy of the Nemuel just to ensure you countercharge and to have a follow up on the following turn. Quancies are very useful in other matchups, that were tire heavy, like something like Kagura, or that you try to use Dragon Newt. Quancy shuts down that entire card. And obviously PGs, and if you're really desperate, because Roan's the only thing you're hitting, you can bounce Roan's with, because she's still in there or something at the end of the day. So yeah, very good card. And then her other skill is once per turn, Soul Blast 1, bounce a duo from your rear, one of your duo rears to hand, and because it bounces, this procs her first skill. So this skill facilitates her first skill. So yeah, alright, so just something to note, the Nemuel's dupe skill isn't limited to duos. You could technically bounce whatever you wanted here. You could technically bounce like, I don't know, like a grade 2 Riviere. If you're playing that for whatever reason, this card does work with it, but you would need some way to bounce that said Riviere, because her Soul Blast skill to only bounces duos, and Riviere is not a duo. But yeah, pretty irrelevant that she doesn't only dupe duos, but just something to note. But for this deck, it's pretty much irrelevant, because everything in this deck but the filter grade 1 is a duo. Next up is the Victoria. So her skill, first off, she leads in with Quancy, the resist intercept, and her skill is on Legion. Let's see, what is her exact skill? I don't remember, but her skill is on Legion. She bounces a circle. Return a card from your circle other than your Vanguard circle. So you can't bounce the Vanguard or anything, obviously. From your board to your hand, and if that card is a duo, you can dupe a copy from your deck. So the reason why the card specifies circle is because you can bounce locked cards like this. So say your front row has like a locked Vepr or like a locked Roan or something, you can use Quancy to bounce that. Something that just came up in one of my game game that I just happen to remember is that I put down a PG, I tried to Roan to search it, I healed out of the Roan, and then the other guy Photon locked my PG, and then now the next turn I just rode the Victoria and then bounced the locked PG to my hand. Pretty funny, but yeah, she can bounce locked cards essentially, but more often than not, she just dupes a card. You just gotta also remember that she's an on Legion skill, so you have to preemptively put the card down so you actually get to dupe something that you want. And her other skill is on attack the Vanguard. You have something in the middle. If you have something in the middle column with this card, so either if you're not in Legion, a booster behind it or something behind it, and if you are in Legion, she just gets 3k because the mate counts. She gets plus 3k, so she scales, so it's pretty nice. Victoria's definitely your backup Legion, but you definitely still play it because A, you're playing her mate anyways, and B, you will actually deck up if you don't have 8 Legion in your deck. And finally, the irrelevant grade 3s. These slots matter so little to me. I'm playing Iori. This card is pretty much just a vanilla draw trigger. I just think she's cute, that's why I play her. But this slot can be anything you want it to be. Realistically speaking, you should probably play something better than this card in this slot. But I just think this one slot matters so little that I'm just playing Iori. But if you want to know her skill, Soul Blast 1 Persona Blast. We're only playing one at first, so the skill's irrelevant. Her other skill is on attack to Vanguard, discard 2 duels of the same names to get 5k in a crit, and CB2 for 5k power. See? Garbage card. So it's pretty terrible. The crit's cool, I guess, but yeah, pretty bad card. And then finally, the heal trigger that I choose to play is the Rate. So there's her skill is Limerick 4 once per turn. When attacking Vanguard, let me actually read her exact skill. So at the end of battle, when unit attacks, so not even attacking Vanguard, so I got that wrong. But when she attacks, she gains the skill At the end of that battle, CB2, discard 2 duels with the same name. Restand this card, draw 2, she gets 5k. So a restander, so she's a finisher, and then her other skills, when this unit attacks the Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 to bounce a dual rear to your hand. So you can like bounce something on your board to fulfill her cost because you had to put something down and you bounce it and you discard it for cost. The reason I choose to play Rate as my finisher isn't particularly because I think she's good, but because in a meta filled with brawlers, your other finisher choices being Eternal Idol Pacifico or the Reindeer, they all require boosters, and they're all 11k base. So when you're playing as brawlers, the Vanguard itself already isn't hitting, and then to like maximize value off your rears, you need boosters there. So you'll need like a booster on the rear and behind Vanguard, and with brawlers punching your entire board every turn, you just feasibly cannot do it. So I think the Rate has the advantage of just being very like self-sufficient to itself. So you can still end the game without needing the boosters to do things. So that's personally why I choose to play the Rate over the Pacifico or the Reindeer. Getting the 2 director draws is also kind of cool, I guess, and having the Soul Blast 1 to balance also is kind of cool, I guess. But realistically speaking, this last slot doesn't matter too much. Again, your other choices are the Eternal Idol Pacifico or the Reindeer. But just in my opinion, in the current meta with brawlers everywhere, I think Rate is your best finisher. If brawlers didn't exist and your backroad hate was like less of a thing, I think Eternal Idol Pacifica is probably the better card overall. So yeah, but as the meta stands right now, I think Rate is the better choice. But realistically speaking, you never ride into your finisher anyway. These are always just heals you want to toss the Legion back and then just flip them. So yeah, this is a deck profile for Fish. Tell me what you think about down below in the comments. Like I said before, I do think this is the best deck in the game, so I think this is a relatively good investment right now. So yeah, like and subscribe, all the good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.